Some things are better left unknown. And I'll never find you here, 'cause no one's ever is clean, she's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis. Oh, what a sinner is it in her? What's the truth in this riddle? Is love really just this simple? I can't seem to find my way in this world that never stays. What a widow, a peaceful spider. When the glass is clean, she's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis. What a sinner is it in her? Is this real? Just illusion. I'm lost in the wonderland of confusion. I'm lost in the wonderland of confusion. Is this real or just illusion? Manifestation or a dark delusion? Is this real or just illusion? I'm lost in a wonderland of confusion.
Rabbit Hole is a community-driven radio. At times the community comments may reveal prejudices and other beliefs that we or our sponsors do not condone. Views or opinions expressed by the community, callers, or guests, are those of the individual speaking and do not represent the views or opinions of this site. Rippin' Common Sense content is intended for mature audiences only. Enjoy.
Hello. Hello. This is My Life DIY, and
hi, this is JoJo.
Hi, my name is Ash.
Hey everybody, it's AJ the Rippin' Rabbit.
This is Cynthia Sue Larson.
This is your man Meta, aka Propagate This Light.
And you're now listening
to Darkwolf's Den.
The Darkwolf's Den Show on Rippin' Common Sense Radio.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
Are ghosts real?
We had 1,000 hours of continuous communication with
atmospheric world.
Does time travel actually exist?
The laws of physics seem to be compatible with time machines.
You know, sometimes I wonder about reincarnation, don't you?
A 4-year-old boy in Adelaide, Australia, has told his parents that he used to be Britain's Princess Diana.
What would happen if the world found out that aliens were real?
I didn't say disclosure would be easy, but what is the alternative?
To establish a space force as the 6th branch of the armed forces.
We have so many questions and yet so little time, so to have you here, the pleasure is all mine.
Coming to you from a secret mountain cave, hidden deep within the Idaho wilderness. This is the DarkWolf's Den Show. Now, here is your host, Jerry Hicks.
That's right, I am Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf, and we are broadcasting live across the multiverse from a secret mountain cave hidden high up in the beautifully snow-covered peaks of the Idaho mountains. That's right. We're ripping through the electromagnetic soup, tearing through the atmosphere, and tunneling away into your radio like a quantum particle. This is the DarkWolf's Den Show for Wednesday, April 14th, 2021. So whether you're on the edge of reality, the edge of the galaxy, or the edge of your seat, we're glad you chose us to be right there with you. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to discuss Mandela effect theories. We know what the Mandela effect is. We know that reality itself is changing around us. But what could make that happen? What is the trigger? What is the why, right? Well, we're going to go over a number of theories this weekend and see if we can't nail it down at least a little bit. All that and more coming up here in just a moment. But first, today in history. When it comes to the today in history, some days have a lot of crazy, other days don't really have very much at all. This is one of those days in history that is packed with crazy. And what's even crazier is I found a today in history that matches our topic. Check this out, ladies and gentlemen. In 1902, on this day, J.C. Penney opens his first store, the Golden Rule Store in Kemmerer, Wyoming. And of course, a lot of us remember Penny being spelled P-E-N-N-Y, the classic way, not as it is now P-E-N-N-E-Y. But at any rate, that is today's Today in History. And J.C. Penney, of course, being one of many well-known Mandela effects. And the Mandela effect for me has been a wild ride, right? I found it in 2015. I ran across a video and somebody mentioned the Berenstain Bears, that people remembered being the Berenstain Bears, and that's all it took for me. And as a paranormal researcher of 20 plus years at the time, of course I was a kid in a candy store, a brand new paranormal phenomena going on. I definitely wanted a part of this. And the first thing that I thought of when I found the Mandela effect is the first thing that I thought of when I found UFOs and ghosts and cryptids and all the above. I had the same two questions, and I keep these two questions to this day. And the questions are simple: why and how? Why is it happening, and how is it happening? Like with the UFO phenomenon, I am obsessed with how these crafts are actually working, if they are from another place in the universe. Of course, when we get into extra dimensionals, that's a whole nother story, and we'll touch on that here in a little while. But the Mandela effect has been one of those wild rides for me, like I said. It's been one of those things that it's fascinating. How can reality itself literally be changing? Well, there's a couple theories, or I should say hypotheses, I guess, as to why the Mandela effect is happening. And that is what we're going to focus on tonight. You see, in 2016, whenever I made my YouTube channel, it may have been as late as 2017, But whenever I made that channel, I made it under the idea of the Mandela Effect Theory series. And because I was the only one I knew that was really questioning why or how is this happening. It's fascinating to watch all the different changes. And Lord knows I love the different changes because that's our evidence set. But just the same, it brings into question how or why is it happening in the first place. And that's what we're going to dig into tonight. And of course, the most popular theory is Cern, or the Large Hadron Collider. And for those that don't know, this is the biggest machine ever built by man. And the point of this machine is to smash particles at 99.999999% the speed of light and see what happens. See what they smash down and break down into. And they've said it themselves, they're looking for doorways to other worlds. Now, that's an interesting thing for people at Cern to say. But what's even more interesting is the video they put out in 2016 or 17 called Happy at Cern. And they have a scientist in this video that has two cards around his neck. One of them says Mandela, the other says Bond number 1. So just on a whim, if you go look up who was the first James Bond, you're going to find a guy named Roger Nelson. Mandela Nelson, or Nelson Mandela, if you put this sign together that way. And it's interesting that that would be in a video from Cern. It's almost like a wink, wink, nod, nod, right? And that's what got many people thinking maybe they are involved in the Mandela effect, or maybe they are just trying to take credit for something that they actually have no part in, right? I can tell you that officially for the last 3 years, the Cern LHC has been shut down, and only in the last month or so have they recently come back online. With that said, there are over 300,000 particle accelerators in the world. So it doesn't necessarily have to be Cern, right? The idea of a particle accelerator perhaps accidentally creating changes in reality isn't all that wild. And when it comes to Mandela effect theory, there are two different schools of thought. You've got the idea that it's one timeline, one reality being manipulated somehow. That is the school of thought that I tend to follow. But I can tell you the evidence doesn't suggest that. The evidence heavily suggests the other school of thought, and that is the idea of the multiverse, and that we are literally shifting through multiverses when there's a Mandela effect shift. This is a very popular theory in the community, the most well accepted, the dimensional reality theory, that for whatever reason, by whatever trigger, for some reason we are jumping or skipping timelines into whatever timeline we end up on in each shift. And it comes into question, is it our consciousness that is moving? Is it our physical bodies that is moving? Is anything moving? And again, you've got the two different schools of thought here. But they both agree that there is a Mandela effect going on, so it's not like they're skeptically opposed to each other. It's just the why that is opposing. And when you talk about Cern and multiple realities, you got to bring up the D-Wave quantum computer, right? This is something else that the Mandela effect community has looked heavily at, the quantum computing aspect. And it's not like the Mandela effect people are Luddites, right? It's not like we hate technology and we're just choosing to pick on the newest technology because maybe that's what's causing everything, right? No. This is not without merit. You see, the guy that financed the D-Wave quantum computer systems, Mr. Geordie Rose himself, come out and give a lecture in 2013, and he kind of explained how these things work. And well, I'm going to let you be the judge of why the Mandela effect community thinks the quantum D-Wave computers might be involved. Ladies and gentlemen, Geordie Rose.
I'm going to tell you a little bit about quantum computers and why people care so much about them. There are literally tens of thousands of some of the brightest people in the world today trying to build these machines and understand them. And I'm going to tell you why. In my last 15 years of working on this type of stuff, I found that scientists divide up into two categories of zealots about this field. The first half are people who are absolutely entranced by the physics of these things. This quote is from a respectable scientist, in fact, one of the founders of this field, that may look a little strange to you who don't follow theoretical physics, but there is a very clear prediction that our most successful theory of nature makes, and that is that there are an enormous number, mind-bogglingly large number, of parallel realities.
I'm sorry, Jordy, I'm not sure I heard that right. Could you repeat that last part?
There is a very clear prediction that our most successful theory of nature makes, and that is that there are an enormous number, mind-bogglingly large number, of parallel realities.
Surely he's speaking hypothetically, right? He don't really mean parallel universes, right? Remember, he's speaking science, right?
As real as this one, that have different consistent histories.
So we're talking parallel universes like in the sci-fi movies then, right, Jordy?
So imagine a world where all of the laws of physics as we know them are obeyed, but different decisions were made along the way. Different decisions at the level of tiny microscopic particles, different decisions all the way up to what you chose to eat for lunch, and whether you chose to come to this session or not. Quantum mechanics makes a very specific prediction that all of those are as real as the thing that you remember. And this is bizarre, because we don't see those other things. But science has reached the point now where we can build machines that exploit those other worlds.
Once again, do what, Jordy?
But science has reached the point now where we can build machines that exploit those other worlds. And quantum computers are perhaps the most exciting of all of these that we have within, or almost within, our grasp right now.
Once again, this was in 2013, and we know very well that there are a multitude of quantum D-Wave computers around the world. There are car companies that have purchased these. Interesting, huh? There are places like Google and even NASA who has purchased these. There's been just a number of these sold across the world, and it makes people wonder if it is connecting to parallel realities in order to work. Well, what exactly is going on in between? Are we pulling residue from parallel realities into this one, or are we literally shifting between parallel realities because of these quantum D-Wave computers? This is one of the major things that is popular theory in the community, once again, is the quantum D-Wave. And we can't talk about quantum D-Wave without talking, once again, like I said earlier, that brought this up about Cern, because Cern also owns a quantum D-Wave computer. So it makes you wonder, when you've got a company that says we work by connecting parallel universes, and you've got another project that says we're trying to open the door to parallel universes, and then you find these two projects working together, well, it makes you wonder what is really going on. And there is a case that can be made that working hand in hand, they possibly have accomplished their goal and could be responsible for the Mandela effect. And these are but two theories so far that we've touched on, and there are a number of these. Like the idea that it's mismemory, right? Now, this is one that just drives me up a wall. I decided in the theory series to give mismemory a shot, to give these skeptics their voice. However, I was shocked with what I found. You see, they used the word confabulation against us a lot in the beginning. I mean, they beat us over the head with it and said the definition is you believe what you're saying, but it's not really true. You're confabulating it. Which is fair. I don't agree that that's the answer, but fair, that's what confabulation is. However, they forgot to give us the other half of the meaning. And right after I made this video, they stopped beating us over the head with confabulation because they realized they were wrong. You see, the other half of the definition of confabulation is the fact that in order to have this mental issue, especially on a regular basis, you have to be suffering from very specific mental issues like Korsakoff's syndrome, which happens to a lot of alcoholics. I don't know about you guys. I don't drink, so it's hard for me to be classified as an alcoholic and have Korsakoff syndrome. Also, it happens to people with amnesia. I've not had any head injuries to have amnesia. At least I don't remember having amnesia, right? But it's very specific disorders that cause confabulation on a regular basis. It's not like it can be just confabulated on the random. And I can't ask you a question also and can make you confabulate anything. I can't lead a question to the point that you're going to confabulate an answer. That's also not a thing. If you look into it, that is not possible. You can't make somebody confabulate just by asking them if they remember something, yes or no. You can't make them remember something they can't. Now, you can play it out on a long game, as we know, and get people to admit to things they've not done. But that aside, generally speaking, I can't ask you, hey, do you remember that day the sky turned purple? And if you don't remember that, you're not going to agree with me and pretend that you did. If so, then you would be a liar anyway. So either way, right? But this is, again, one of many theories that came through the community, and confabulation and mismemory just don't work. And I got to admit, for the first year that I had my channel, I was even wondering, is it really that simple? Could it be that simple? And then I ran across something else in the Mandela effect that changed up everything, changed the game entirely. That is the flip-flops. When something changes, fine, I remember it one way, it's changed this way. But when it changes back to the way I remember, one of those two is wrong. One of those two can't be right. Mismemory doesn't work for both of those scenarios, especially when those scenarios happen within a week or two of each other. Mismemory only works for one of those answers. You can't misremember it and then re-misremember it a different way, the way it was to begin with. Either that or the person is psychic when they know that it's going to change back to whatever it was to begin with. One of the two. Either way, you're left with a woo answer, right? So that definitely killed the mismemory for me 100%. So don't ever let anyone tell you the Mandela effect is just confabulation, because they clearly don't understand the definition of confabulation. But perhaps it's a religious thing, right? We know the Bible has been changed a lot. There's been a lot of word changes that have been made in the Bible. Perhaps it is a religious problem. Perhaps the devil is responsible, right? Well, that's not exactly too much of a stretch. It could be that we are in the end times. At least that's what one group of Mandela effect theorists think. The Christians tend to go with the Armageddon idea, and it's not really too far-fetched. If you look at the book of Revelation, or Revelations, as some of us remember it, there was a lot of things in there, like the Great Delusion, and many other things that we're starting to see line up in today's world. Could it very well be that we are entering the beginning of the end of time? Could the devil be responsible for changing the Bible itself and creating different various Mandela effects? I don't really get a negative vibe off most Mandela effects, but I must be honest with you. The Bible seems so out of place to me when it comes to the Mandela effect. It just always has. And I don't know why. It just seems to me the Bible in itself changing just doesn't seem right. It just seems so out of character for the rest of the Mandela effect. Like, the rest of it is movie lines, lyrics, a lot of pop culture stuff. But the Bible, it's a whole nother level of messing with reality, right? You're messing with an entire religion, an entire holy book. And how could the holy book itself be changed? This is a big argument within the Christian communities, and the Mandela effect has really split the Christian community right down the middle. For those that see it and remember, for instance, the lion lying down with the lamb and not the wolf lying down with the lamb, and for those that absolutely just do not remember it, or if it's printed in the Bible now, that's the way it must have always been. And it's hard to wrap your head around, I gotta say. It really is. So the few Christians that are brave enough to stand up and say, yes, this is different for me. They believe perhaps it is Armageddon or the devil himself doing it. And again, I don't know one way or the other about that, but it is definitely an interesting theory. And if you look around at the world today, you can't help but wonder, perhaps maybe we are in the end times. And there's been a lot of different spelling changes, right? From the Bible to words we all remember, like dilemma. I remember dilemma being spelled D-I-L-E-M-N-A. It had a silent N. Well, if you look it up now, that never has existed. It is D-I-L-E-M-M-A. And I bring up the spelling changes because I wonder sometimes if perhaps there's a message in these effects, right? Is there a message within the Mandela effects? Something that we're not seeing, that we're not picking up on quite yet. And I have found some interesting trends, if you will, among different effects, like different stores that have been affected. JCPenney, for instance, has had financial issues. There was a Victoria's Secret Mandela effect, and then we find out that a certain person that may or may not have committed suicide was connected with Victoria's Secret. There's been just different Mandela effect stores that have come into question that all of a sudden have had either financial issues or have found themselves in the news. And it could just be an odd trend that, doesn't exist quite the way I'm seeing it here. I could be connecting dots that don't necessarily connect, but it is odd. However, perhaps there's a bigger overall message, right? In all of the Mandela effects. I was thinking originally when I came up with the theory that perhaps like a time traveler, right, is stuck outside of time and trying to manipulate things within time to send a message to save himself. And I know, very sci-fi movie-like, but hey, we got to think outside the box, right? You got to admit that. At least it's outside the box. But perhaps there's a deeper esoteric meaning within these Mandela effects. Perhaps it's a more personal meaning to each one of us. Perhaps it's a message more directly from the Creator, directly to each person that is able to see the Mandela effect and able to see things in the Mandela effect that others don't maybe quite see, which has caused the idea of the multiverse, which we'll get into here shortly. But perhaps it is a esoteric message system from the gods or the higher powers or whoever runs this realm, and it's telling us messages about life or reality itself. This is a very popular theory, and there are those that try to literally decode every Mandela effect. And one guy I know literally tries to decode every Mandela effect by the Bible, which is really interesting, especially when it comes to some of these words. Some of them, they seem like a stretch, but some of them, it really makes me scratch my head and wonder if they aren't onto something. Perhaps there is a very much more esoteric and deeper meaning to each of these Mandela effects. Perhaps they're telling us things about the future. Perhaps we're going on to a better, brighter, and happier timeline. Lord knows I could definitely use that, because the timeline we've been on the last couple of years has been absolutely insane. If it has been the same timeline the last couple of years, right? Because there are those that believe we are literally shifting and jumping between timelines. And again, I don't know about this theory, but it's very, very popular, and it begs the question yet again, how and why? And like how we have spent already most of the episode speaking about this, and why we've got to go ahead and take a network break here real quick, because ladies and gentlemen, we are coming up on the halfway point of the episode. So we are going to go ahead and take a network break. Guys, go ahead and sit back and relax and kind of contemplate what we've discussed so far, and see if maybe you can come up with an answer to that I did not. And I'm going to go ahead and throw it to our buddy AJ the Rippin' Rabbit here on the YouTubes, and those listening on the radio. We're going to go ahead and take a station identification break, and we'll be right back after these messages. Don't you touch that dial. That's right.
We got to stoke the fires and run off the men in black. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back.
Ow! Your weekend has begun. Hi, everyone. It's AJ, the Rippin' Rabbit. Are you enjoying tonight's look at the Mandela effect with Jerry Hicks and the DarkWolf's Den Show? I know I am. If you are and you haven't done so already, please make sure to thumb up that video, hit that subscribe button, and ring that bell. You'll get our notifications every time we go live. We're here every Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday nights, bringing you the very best of common sense radio, the Rippin' Rabbit Hole. Jerry will return again tomorrow night for a look at odd parts, out of place artifacts. I can't wait. This is going to be really fascinating. Tomorrow, April 15th, starting at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, join Jerry Hicks and the DarkWolf's Den Show as we investigate out-of-place artifacts. Starts at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central. I'll be back again Friday, April 16th with Feeling Good. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, and I'm feeling good, and you should too. Friday, April 16th, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central. All shows start at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central. Come along with me down the rabbit hole Saturday, April 17th, as we explore magic mushrooms, the fascinating rabbit hole of magic mushrooms. It's going to be an interesting night, to say the least. Then Sunday, April 8th, the weekend right together with a celebration of mind. My special guest, Mark Sedidicati, a magician and inventor, and the G4G, or Gathering for Gardener, co-founder, will be here to kick off a week-long celebration of mind. That's right. All next week, you are going to be able to participate in a worldwide celebration of mind. You think the Fantastic Fun shows are cool? Just wait to see what Gathering for Gardener has for you next week. We'll have complete details posted tomorrow night and tell you more during the break tomorrow night about this unbelievable virtual get-together designed to challenge your mind in the celebration of mind. Again, that Sunday night kicks off April 18th. 2021. We'll return back to tonight's topic for Jerry Hicks and the DarkWolf's Den Show, the Mandela effect theory. You know what? For me, it's not a theory. The Mandela effect, it's a theory. Either way, you're listening to the Rippin' Common Sense Radio Network. Now back to Jerry Hicks and the DarkWolf's Den for Wednesday, April 14th, 2021.
This is My Life DIY, and
hi, this is JoJo.
Hi, my name is Oz.
Hey, everybody, it's AJ, the Rippin' Rabbit.
This is Cynthia Sue Larson.
This is your man Meta, a.k.a. Propagate This Light.
And you're now listening
to DarkWolf's Den.
The DarkWolf's Den Show on Rippin' Common Sense Radio.
If you were meant to be controlled, you would have come with a remote, but you didn't. And that's why you listen to the DarkWolf's Den Show. Now, here is your host, Jerry Hicks.
That's right, I am Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf, and welcome back to the second half of the DarkWolf's Den Show for Wednesday, April 14th, 2021. So whether you're on the edge of reality, the edge of the galaxy, or the edge of your seat, we're glad you chose us to be right there with you. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, if you're just joining us, we've been discussing the Mandela effect theories and all the different ideas that have come up to try to explain the Mandela effect. We've covered Cern, D-Wave, and a number of other theories, including message theory in the first half. In the second half, we're going to carry on with even more wild theories like time travel. This is one of the first theories people arrive at when they hear about the Mandela effect, is perhaps it is time travel. Now, we know in the intro that Michio Kaku every week says that the laws of physics do not disallow for time machines. So it definitely does allow for possible time travel. However, the laws of time travel might negate this possibility. Because as we know, if you go back and change something in the past, from that moment on, it is that way. For instance, let's use the Hitler example. If I go out and take out baby Hitler back in time, nobody will know the name Hitler from that point on, right? So the only one that would be aware of Hitler would be me, because I'm the one that traveled back from the reality that Hitler did what he did and changed things, right? So the only one that would notice the change would be the time-traveling observer in that case. This is why I don't think time travel is possible. However, with things like the butterfly effect, if you change one small thing, it could ripple out into a multitude of larger and larger changes. That is not off the table. So time travel is still one of those that are like, it's teetering on the edge of the table for me. I'm not going to completely take it off, but it's not completely on either. However, it would be easy to travel in time if we lived in a simulation, right? Perhaps that's the case. Perhaps we live in nothing more than a simulation, and when some little random variable is changed, we call it the Mandela effect. A lot like the movie The Matrix, right? Perhaps that's why there's been an uptick in synchronicities and deja vus. Perhaps the programmers are reprogramming the simulation and messing up and creating more bugs than they're fixing. This could be the case. It would also explain flip-flops, right? Well, Philip K. Dick, the popular science writer, may have stumbled upon this idea back in the 70s in a talk that he gave in Metz, France.
We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed and some alteration in our reality occurs. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present, déjà vu, perhaps in precisely the same way, hearing the same words, saying the same words. I submit that these impressions are valid and significant, and I will even say this: such an impression is a clue that at some past time point a variable was changed, reprogrammed as it were, and that because of this an alternative world branched off.
Could the Mandela effect be those little variable changes in reality? Could it be that we live in a computer simulated reality, at least to some degree, or a conscious simulated reality, right? That's not completely out of the question. And you know, it's one thing when a science fiction writer like Philip K. Dick says something like that, but what about when a prominent leading physicist says something like that? For instance, the physicist Dr. James Gates.
So where has this pursuit taken you?
Oh my God.
Where have you landed?
Why would you ask that?
I'm asking that here and now.
Well, partly it's taken to these very strange images that are behind your head right now. These are pictures of equations. I've been, for the last 15 years, trying to answer the kinds of questions that my colleagues here have been raising. And what I've come to understand is that there are these incredible pictures that contain all the information of a set of equations that are related to string theory. And it's even more bizarre than that, because when you then try to understand these pictures, you find out that buried in them are computer codes just like the type that you find in a browser when you go surf the web. And so I'm left with the puzzle of trying to figure out whether I live in the Matrix or not.
Once again, that is physicist Dr. James Gates. And when he says there is computer code, and specifically this computer code is the same error correcting code that is found in all browsers that are used on the internet, and pretty much all computers anymore, it makes you wonder why that is buried in the string theory code that describes the universe. And perhaps we do live in a matrix, a simulated universe. That would make the Mandela effect a much easier thing to do. Whoever the creator or runner of this simulation is just has to change a variable or so, and that might be it. And of course we have Mandela effects. They've changed Berenstein to Berenstain, and only some of us recognize it, but those of us that does are very confused, right? Perhaps it could just well be a simulation. Or perhaps we all died, right? Perhaps in 2012, when whatever supposedly was going to happen happened, perhaps it destroyed the Earth and we all died and had to be moved into a computer simulation. This is another theory that has been presented in the community, and it's one that does make you wonder, is this a different world, a in between, if you will? The only problem I have with that idea is that there are still babies being born. Perhaps those are coming out of the old world and into the new, right? I don't know. That could be stretched to a certain degree, I guess. But again, it's just one more of many theories. Then you have the emotion theory. This is kind of something that I kind of came up with. And as we've said on this show many times, we all give off a electrochemical signal into the environment at all times. And these are based on our emotions, thoughts, everything that goes on in our body is literally transmitted into the environment. I know how weird that sounds, but believe it or not, that is the case. Well, what if these different emotions built up in reality, whether it be fear, love, hate, whatever it may be, and the manifestation comes at the point of the shift? And a Mandela effect shift is when we realize all of a sudden there are a bunch of brand new Mandela effects, and there are usually some symptoms that come along with this, physical symptoms people know, as well as certain things we can see in the Schumann resonance chart that usually also verify a shift. But perhaps when these shifts occur, that is when the emotional release is done in reality, and whatever the emotion is what it goes towards. For instance, if there's a lot of art in springtime, a lot of artists get out. You've got a lot of art thoughts going on. And we've seen art changes a lot of times around springtime. And just different emotional aspects, I wonder if it doesn't have an effect on reality itself. Literally manifestation of reality, or changing of reality by mass majority of consciousness of thought or emotion. This, of course, is the emotion theory. An interesting theory, and not one that I can easily disprove, but it doesn't really predict a whole lot. Now, though it does have more prediction power than some, it doesn't predict a whole lot as far as what's next. And it's always said that a good theory can predict what's coming next. So I don't have a theory like that. However, we are working on a couple new theories. And one theory that myself and a lot of others have been working on is a space theory. Perhaps the sun is directly involved in the Mandela effects. I know that sounds a little weird, but bear with me. We know the Schumann resonance has been a very, very amazing detector of Mandela effect shifts. We also know that the Schumann resonance is affected by space weather as well as directly from things that happen in the sun, whether it be a solar storm or just heavy solar winds. So perhaps these events outside of the Earth could actually be causing the Mandela effect, and the Schumann resonance is just a signal, if you will, a evidence piece to show us that the shift has actually occurred, whatever is actually causing it. And NASA, I know none of us agree or believe NASA. I'm right there with you guys that say never straight answer, NASA lies. Yes, I agree, NASA lies. However, they did come out and say that there is a portal of some type just outside of the atmosphere of the Earth. I'm going to repeat that. There is a portal outside the atmosphere of the Earth, an energetic portal. Now, this is NASA speaking. This isn't Dark Wolf. This isn't some bunch of conspiracy theorists. This is legit science, and this portal is directly affected by the actions of the sun. There's also the idea that the sun could be a stargate, and that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother show. But what about the idea that it perhaps is being caused by space weather? Perhaps the energetics are happening to the planet in such a way that it's literally phasing us into different realities. And of course, we also know that a lot of us remember being on Sagittarius arm of the Milky Way, and now we find ourselves on the Orion arm, a good distance away from where a lot of us remember being taught that we were. Halfway to the galactic center opposed to out at the edge of the galactic arm. That's a major difference. And yet another Mandela effect, at least according to some, as well as the yellow sun. And it's things like that that make you wonder, are we really switching realities? Are we shifting some way or another to different timelines? And are the portals around the sun or around the earth from the sun connected in some way? Or perhaps it's something to do with the ether, right? I know there's a lot of radical etherists out there, or even regular etherists, that doesn't quite buy quantum physics. But if you're able to manipulate and tap into the ether, perhaps you're able to tap into the very nature of reality by frequency, right? Perhaps it is the frequency of these things that is changing. Perhaps the frequency that we are interpreting of these things is changing. This is frequency theory. Perhaps the different frequencies that we are on at any given time determines what reality we end up in at any given time. And perhaps consistency of reality is nothing more than an illusion. And our frequencies determine where we are. If we are in the Berenstain reality, if we're in the Victoria's Secret with a apostrophe S or without, if we're in the reality of Jiffy or without. And the reason I don't think that is the case is because I think a lot of us would be working a lot harder on finding that frequency to shift back to our original reality where everything is as we remember it. And it's interesting that that's one thing that we haven't seen a lot of. We've seen just a couple flip-flops go back and forth to the way we remember things, but not very often. And these are just a few ideas. I've kind of run out of theories, but I hope that this may have sparked an idea in you guys, and perhaps a theory that I haven't thought of. A theory that could be more fitting to the Mandela effect. Aside from the skeptics saying it's all in our heads and it's all made up, because those of us that have seen and witnessed and understand the Mandela effect know very clear and well that there's nothing in our heads about it. It is a very real paranormal phenomenon. But what do you guys think? Do you guys think that perhaps it is Cern and D-Wave quantum computers that are causing the Mandela effect? Do you think perhaps it could be a message from someone or something outside reality? Perhaps it's a simulation reality is, and some variable is just being changed randomly within the simulation. Perhaps the simulation is literally a computer-coded simulation. Or maybe it has to do with the frequency that we're on. Tesla believed a lot in frequencies. I don't know the answers, ladies and gentlemen. We are yet to get the final answers on what is causing the Mandela effect, but there is always room for more theories. In the end, ladies and gentlemen, all you can do is look at the evidence, take an open mind, apply a little common sense, and you be the judge. we got to close it out. That's right, that's it for this episode of the Darkwolf's Den Show for Wednesday, April 14th, 2021. So whether you're on the edge of reality, the edge of the galaxy, or the edge of your seat, we're glad you chose us to be right there with you. The day may be closing for tonight, ladies and gentlemen, but don't you worry, the weekend fun has only just begun. That's right, we've only kicked the weekend off halfway. We will be back tomorrow, Thursday, April 15th, 2021, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, for an all-new episode of the Darkwolf's Den Show. That's right, tomorrow night we're going to be covering Oop Arts. Oop what? Oops? Oop Arts. That's right, this is out-of-place artifacts. You've heard us talk about them before in different portions of shows. Now we're going to give it its own show because it's a topic definitely worthy of such. Just, artifacts that have been found that don't match the archaeological record. Show you do not want to miss. Very intriguing and fascinating topic this is. Speaking of fascinating, on Friday, April 15th, 2021, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, our buddy AJ the Rippin' Rabbit will be back with an all-new episode of the Rippin' Rabbit Hole Live Show. That's right. This is going to be a weekend of discovery. That's right. From Mandela Effect Theory and Oop Arts to feeling good. That's right. What makes you feel good? Are there certain tricks to feeling good all the time? AJ's going to discuss all that and more on Friday, April 16th, 2021, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, on the Rippin' Rabbit Hole Live Show, which he's going to follow up on Saturday, April 17th, 2021, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, with an episode on magic mushrooms. You all know what magic mushrooms are. I know what magic mushrooms are. Make sure you come and tune in for that. That might have actually led to a major jump in human evolution and may yet be medicinally available to those who may actually be able to find it. There's been new studies recently into that. I'm sure AJ will touch on all that more on Saturday, April 17th, 2021, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central. Then on Sunday, April 18th, 2021, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, AJ's got a very special episode, guys. He's going to welcome a friend of the network here, our buddy Mr. Mark Sedidicati. He's going to join AJ the Rippin' Rabbit for discussion on Celebration of Mind. For more information on Celebration of Mind, this is going to be a week-long event that you guys are definitely, I'm sure, quite a few of you will be interested in. If you are interested in finding out more information, just make sure you jump over to the RippinRabbitHole.com. That is RippinRabbitHole.com. Over there, you're going to find more information on Celebration of Mind, the upcoming episode, Sunday, April 18th, 2021, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, right here on Rippin' Common Sense Radio. And while you're over at the RippinRabbitHole.com, make sure you sign up for the Backstage Pass. That's going to warrant you the ability to, number one, receive our weekly email with all of the Darkwolf's Dens and Rippin' Rabbit Holes we're going to be covering all weekend long, as well as the Down the Rabbit Hole. That is our exclusive social media site over there. If you're interested in free speech and sharing your information, do make sure you drop by our exclusive social media site, Down the Rabbit Hole, where the conversation continues 24/7. Speaking of 24/7, I'm going to go on over to the 24/7 Backstage Lounge, my favorite hangout over there. And I'm going to hang out with my friend, the rest of the rabbits over there. There's a team of us, a group of us that hang out almost every night over there, guys. Come on over. We'd love to have you. Where else, right after the show, can you hang out with the DJ, right? What better radio show can you ask for? Guys, I'm going to go over there now. So on behalf of AJ the Rippin' Rabbit, Michael Musco, Chick Mandela Effect, Waldhouse, everyone at Rippin' Common Sense Radio Network, our amazing mod team over there, and all of you guys for listening. I appreciate it so much. On behalf of everybody, my name is Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf. And remember, until next time, ladies and gentlemen, stay awake, but dare to dream. That's right. Good night, everybody. How? Yeah.
things are better left unknown. And I'll never find you here, 'cause no one's ever is clean, she's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis. Oh, what a sinner. Is it in her? What's the truth in this riddle? Is love really just this simple? I can't seem to find my way in this world that never stays. What a widow, a peaceful spider. When the glass is clean, she's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis. What a sinner. Is it in her? Is this real? Just illusion. I'm lost in wonderland of confusion. I'm lost in wonderland of confusion. Is this real or just illusion? Manifestation or a dark delusion?